Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy podcast. Today we have an awesome guest. I actually first saw her on Facebook, lots and lots of videos on Facebook because she is a powerhouse there. And I did not know she lived down the street from me. So when I reached out to her, I thought we were going to do another Zoom call like I've done in the past. But then she said she lives in my same city. So we get to be graced with her presence today, which I'm super excited for. Her name is Stephanie Aranda.
Aranda, yes.
I nailed that. I did pretty good. She did better than me. But she is what I first, the videos I first saw was just her and her husband talking about some of the things that they've gone through in their relationship and in their family and getting over some difficulties that they've been through. And that's when I first thought about, hey, this should be a good person to have on the podcast. Again, we're here talking about fueling your legacy, things basically that are necessary or essential in creating a meaningful legacy, the one that you want. And sometimes that's going to be a financial conversation. Sometimes that's an honesty conversation like last week has been. But this week, we've talked primarily about emotional mastery. Okay. And so we're going to get into with her what exactly is emotional mastery. She coaches people right now and has been helping a lot of people understand their own emotions and how to make that happen. So I'm going to let her tell you her story, her family situation, because it's a great one, and then what that means to her, and then we'll get started there. So welcome.
Hey, thank you, Sam. I'm so glad to be here. My story, I used to be a really cranky person. I didn't know why. I just knew that I wanted something more out of life. I am a mother of 5 kids.
That's why, right there.
That's a lot of kids.
That's why you're cranky.
Yes, and I've always felt like being a mother is my primary calling in life, is to raise these children because they are literally my legacy, my future. The future of the world is our children, the people that we leave behind on this earth. And so, just being really frustrated with life and not being happy with me and not understanding why, like I really slipped into some nasty habits, pornography and the terribly pornographic mindset, masturbation. And this is something that both my husband and myself struggled with. And it really took me down a spiraling vortex of death, like spiritually. And there's a point where I'm like, okay, I cleaned up. I'd really changed the way that I was living, my lifestyle. I'm like, there's got to be something better for us. Like, there's got to be a better way to live financially and for our family to be happy. And I thought that if I just fix everything around me, like if we just had a bigger house, we just had a nicer car, well, like then I'll be happy, right? And that was so not. I know, right? Like if we could just, it's Band-Aids. It's taking everything and trying to do everything outside here when really the solution is looking internally and seeing what can I do inside. And that's what makes lasting change. But I didn't know that. I was just trying to make money. So I started like this eBay reselling business and trying to hustle people on eBay. And the best part about that was taking my then 10-year-old son out yard selling. We'd go hunting for cool stuff. And those are some really precious memories to me now because we don't do that much anymore. But as I was trying to build a business and make money to fix my life, I stumbled onto this self-development course. And I thought I was going to learn how to build a business, but really I was learning how to build my life. And I was so glad to learn how to connect the dots and really see what was holding me back. And it was everything that I wanted to ignore. It was all these past misdeeds, all these things that were constantly nagging me and causing me to feel so heavy inside. But there were secrets that I wanted to take to my grave. Nobody was going to know that Stephanie was less than perfect. Nobody was going to know that I ever had a problem with anything like this. That would just be mortifying. No one could know this. But it wasn't until I was shown just through some simple techniques and drawing a self-portrait of myself and really seeing myself on this paper and like what I was trying to cover up, and gave me the like an empowerment to really go take care of it, to let go of that stuff. So what I did is after I went to this conference the next week, I made an appointment with my spiritual leader. And that's like when all these voices started going on, like, Stephanie, everybody's going to know, like, that no one's going to love you. You are going to like burn forever. Like, this is the worst thing you could do. And like, just this constant attack. But that was when I first started learning how to fight those inner voices and be actually consciously aware that there are forces trying to stop you from doing good in your life. There are forces trying to stop you from living your greatness. And I very effectively, maybe by the skin of my teeth, I don't know, shut those voices up and showed up and really spilled it with my spiritual leader and just laid it all out on the table. Like, here's what it all is. And emotionally release that weight from me. It was like, oh, I can breathe now. And I had to be really selfish. It's something that I wasn't doing for anyone else. I wasn't trying to please anyone. I was owning everything that I had done so that I could release this weight for me emotionally. And through doing that, it was like this fire was just lit inside of me, and weight started melting off my body. I wasn't even trying. I wasn't doing a crazy exercise. I wasn't like going on this weird diet. It was literally, I did not feel heavy anymore. So I wasn't doing things that caused my body to be heavy. When you release what is emotionally heavy inside of you, you don't feel like weighing yourself down. You feel light. You feel like giving yourself light-giving food, energy-giving food, instead of things that make you feel heavy, because you do feel heavy. Or so that was the start of my journey into becoming a mentor and a trainer. Is this total transformation that I had. 50 pounds melted off my body, and people would come to me and ask, Stephanie, what are you doing? Are you at the gym all the time? Are you on a crazy diet? No, it's got nothing to do with diet and exercise. And it's everything to do with the way I feel and really taking care of those feelings so that I don't feel like weighing myself down.
That's incredible. Just like the transformation. Something that is my favorite thing to hear in somebody's life is when they went from A to B. This next week, I'm actually going to be speaking at a conference that's just called Reborn. Like, that's the name of the conference. And so we've heard talking about with some of the other people who are going to be speaking, what does reborn mean to us? And it's that exact experience. It's the experience of, I think I said it this way on one of the videos, but learning to identify your identity, right? Identifying who you actually are and becoming real and allowing yourself to be that person and not being scared of being that person. I love what you said about the need to be selfish. I have this personal belief. I've shared it with a few people, but I strongly believe this. The only way to actually be selfless is to be selfish. And most people say, that doesn't make sense, Sam. I'm like, well, let's talk about it. What is the best feeling you've ever had in your life? It's when you're serving. It's when you're blessing other people's lives. It's when you're releasing and being completely vulnerable and allowing somebody else the opportunity to actually know you. That is the most selfless thing to do, right? And that's when you've been the happiest. So if you really were chasing the greatest high that you could ever experience in life, then you would be doing that all the time, right? You would have to be selfless to actually be selfish. That's right. It's a tongue twister.
It is.
To be selfish, you have to be selfless. There's only one way to do it, assuming that you actually enjoy serving people. I guess if you didn't enjoy serving people, then that would not apply. But I don't understand those people. So in my world, the best thing I've ever experienced is serving and loving other people. And the best feelings I've ever got from that is when I've been willing to open myself up and be vulnerable in a situation that I guess wouldn't naturally call for vulnerability, or just other people around you aren't being vulnerable. And as a result, everybody's kind of tight-lipped about something. But opening up and being the first to open up It takes a lot of courage to be the first to open up about certain things. But when you do that, you actually are freeing other people. My whole ebook is just really about why it's important to be successful in life in all areas, and it's to free other people, to allow them to do the same. Because I think there's the myth that we tell ourselves that we're the only ones.
Yes.
We're the only ones who struggle with this. I remember when I was younger, I struggled with pornography as well, but it was a time in my life, I don't even know how old I was, probably 11 or 12. It was young. But I called my oldest brother to see if I was like, hey, do you know something that I don't know? So I was asking him questions about his life, and he was like, hey, those are kind of personal questions. And I was like, that's true. But really what I was doing was I was searching for somebody like me, or I had heard or had an inkling that he had experienced something like myself. And so I was like, well, maybe if I reach out to him and ask questions, then I'll find out, and then I'll feel comfortable telling somebody. But it just got shut down and just like stuck inside of me for a few more years, because I don't know what to say or how to bring this up, until I finally got the courage to finally just share with people my life and who I am. And it's so freeing. Nobody can ever find something out about me that I've not already told somebody, at least. Like, nobody's going to hoodwink me with my past, because my past is pretty out there. If you want to know, I'll tell you. I have learned that not everybody wants to know.
Yeah. And
so when people ask, I don't just like straight up tell people anymore. I'm like, hey, how much do you want to know about me?
Yeah.
That way I'm protecting their intake of information, what they can handle, because everybody has different levels of what they can handle.
I've learned that too.
Yeah.
The hard way.
Yeah, the hard way. I had a really great friend that helped teach me that. And I was like, I never thought of it that way. So I changed my life from the way I was doing it, but it was good. I think both are good. Being comfortable to share and be vulnerable, that allows people to connect and allows people to get the help that they might need in other areas. And especially when we're talking about emotional control or emotional mastery, I would say addiction of any kind is purely a response to, it's an emotional response, or a habitual response to an emotion, rather. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, my wife, sometimes she feels bad about yelling at our little son. He's like a year and a half old. So and it like almost never happens. My wife is wonderful. But when she does yell or raise her voice, she feels really bad. And pornography or other things that I've struggled with in my past, it's like, look, we have to look at this the same. Maybe one has a little bit different connotation, but ultimately they're all responses to a stimulant. Mm-hmm. And if my response to the same stimulant, the same emotional stimulant, is different than your response to the same emotional stimulant, we're pretty much equal in this regard, and we both can work on this together, and it levels everything out. It removes the shame or guilt or anything from it and just says, look, how can we deal with this emotion? What's a more effective way of processing this emotion? Mm-hmm. When we come across it, because we're going to come across it, we're going to get stressed out, we're going to have things coming up in our lives. And so when we come across these emotions, how do we then process those emotions? And that's changed my life. That was probably I think the power of habit taught me that the biggest in my life was that book. So anyways, very cool. Thank you for sharing that experience. So with that, what would you say has been your greatest success in life? Obviously you've come a long way in your life and had a lot of personal development. What would you say your greatest success has been?
My greatest success, I've thought about this a lot, and bringing 5 children into the world is something that a lot of people choose out of. They don't do that anymore. And I think that is the greatest success and accomplishment I have ever done, is bringing life into this world and investing my love and energy into these little people.
And I will say that's incredible. I only have 1 child right now. My wife is due in like 2 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's hard for me to fathom going to 5 little children.
1 at a time. There's a reason there is 1 at a time. Just 1 at a time.
Yeah, I'm from a family of 11, so like my mom she deserves the best of anything anybody has to offer, any world, any heaven, whatever. But yeah, 11, 1 at a time. And we just had Thanksgiving. We have our Thanksgiving dinner whenever it works for the whole family. And so we just had it last Saturday. Okay. And when we were saying the prayer over the food, everybody was in the room, and even a lot of our spouses were in the room, and I don't feel like I have a big family. And so that's kind of like some cognitive dissonance where like being a parent of one is just like, oh my gosh, and I don't know how you have 11 of these things. But on the other hand, being one of those 11, I don't feel like I have a big family, and I wouldn't mind if my family was twice as big as of right now. So it's kind of like, do I really want to create that experience for my children? I don't know yet. But one at a time, you're right. We're going to do one at a time for sure. Yeah, that's nuts. So what, in my experience, taking these feelings of where we've been hiding, whatever it is, sometimes it's hiding our gifts. Like some people are really good musicians, really good at singing, really good at doing whatever they're good at, writing, whatever, but then they hoard their gifts and they don't actually let their light shine. And there comes a point in I feel like a lot of people's lives when they actually do let their light shine. And there's that critical like tipping point that happens. And in my experience, that tipping point came from somebody first believing me years before that I finally got into a situation that there was a decision to be made finally. And that decision was, hey, are you going to go for it or not? And during that decision, I recalled my grandfather believing in me and kind of giving me an identity as a little child. And that changed the whole entire direction of my life. So for you, what would you say tell me the story of the first person who really believed in you back when?
Okay. The first time I remember somebody really believing in me was when I was in the 4th grade. I was about 9 years old, and we had this writing assignment where we were asked to write a story, and I don't remember like the prompt for the story, but it was supposed to be like a made up story. And so I enjoy writing, and I'm pretty good at it. And so I write this story out, and it was pretty descriptive, and I don't remember the details or any of that, but I do remember how I felt when my teacher's husband came into the room. He's an author, and he had helped grade the papers, and he came up to me. It was. and he came and he was sitting with me, and he's asking me about specific things that I had written in the story. One of them was her faded blue eyes or something like that, like the only detail I remember. And he's like, why did you describe it like this? And I just described how I'd written this story and why I'd written it. And he determined that no one helped me write it. And he looked at me and said, I want to be the first person in line when you publish your first book. And like I was like floored. I knew that he was sincere. And I thought, wow, I never thought that I could be a writer, but he believes in me. Maybe I could write something good. Maybe I could. Maybe I can.
Right.
So maybe that was it. I have not yet published a book that like is out. Like I've made like a book for my son and like published it through like a scrapbooking site, but I haven't done anything for everyone else yet. But it's on my radar, and that was the first time that I thought that I could.
That's awesome. So for the book that you've published for your son or through the scrapbooking thing, is it like an actual story that you created and illustrated, or how does that? What type of book is it? I'm curious.
It's called B is for Bobby, and it's a book of all of his favorites. And the beginning of the book is a picture of him and his brothers and like his cute little rhyme that I made up. And the whole book just rhymes about his favorite things and pictures of his favorite things. And some are pictures of him like eating his favorite foods and playing with stuff. And some are just like photographs that I pulled from the internet and just put into this scrapbook like a digital scrapbook that you can publish, and it looks like an actual book that you can sit down and read with your child. That's the only one that is like that I've made that is like in hard copy form, but that's exciting. Just the first.
Hey, that's just the first. I've thought about because I think a lot about legacy. I think a lot about like not just. I mean, there's so many reasons somebody could be remembered, but for me, I think I have a lot of like fun stories about my grandpa. I have an affinity towards my grandpa, but like we have these stories, all of us have stories from our childhood that are going to be passed down, hopefully, from generation to generation. But it would be fun to just like create, maybe this is coming to me right now, an actual website that you can go create your own books. That would be even better. But like creating a story form book, so you can create like a set of all of your family history stories, but in a easy, simple child book way, so you can be teaching your children the lessons and legacies that you learn from your grandparents or great-grandparents, but be passing that on through a storybook form. I think that would be cool.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm like thinking of the stories of my grandma, like the things that I hold on to. Like she just passed away this summer, and I love some of the stories of her life, and that is such a great idea. I'm like, I need to bring some stories together so that I can pass these on, because that's where our legacy lives, is inside of those memories and those stories.
Yeah, in those stories. And so if you can illustrate it, I don't know. I have like a really funny story about cherry pie with my grandpa. We were out, me, my brother, and cousin, we were out picking cherries out in the orchard, and we were just about done. He said, hey, how would you guys like some cherry pie and ice cream when we get home? We're like, sure, you know, we were 6, 7 years old. And so when we get home, then he walked in and he's like, hey, Grandma, he said Beth, his wife's name, the boys would like some cherry pie and ice cream. And we didn't know how to respond. We're like, that was totally his idea, but we're not going to say anything because we do want it. So, and then we all made cherry pie and ice cream. So it's like, it's just funny things like that kind of lets you get to know your ancestors, get to know the character, the humor, really who they are, and some of the funny things about them that would be a good short story book that you could attach a moral to, that it's fun to laugh and it's okay to have fun, and teach that to your children. And it could be all like, I don't know what the word is, illustrated, but like cartoonish, illustrated.
I love that so much.
Anyway, so that's the idea in the back of my mind. I guess anybody who's listening to this, go make it happen, because I want to plug my stories into it. I don't want to take the effort to do it, but I want to plug my stories into it. So you'll have one customer. Sounds like 2 customers if you choose to create something like that. So that would be your greatest success was your kids, or having your kids, probably raising them as well. It's all
it's an ongoing process. Are we ever done raising our kids, even when they're adults? I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't got there, but I'm grateful for my mom and dad. And then somebody believed in you, but like, what was the hardest thing you've ever accomplished? When did those two come to a head, would you say?
The hardest thing, sharing my story has been so hard. Like really taking care of me and getting in a space where I feel in alignment myself. But the first time sharing my story is like just with my husband, like after I came home from that first meeting with my spiritual leader, I came home and it was late in the evening and he'd already gone to bed. And I threw my stuff on the floor in our room and I was like, I'm free. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I felt so good. I felt so much light and joy that I didn't even know was missing. And as I told him not the details of what had happened yet, but that I just told everything to this spiritual leader and how good that I felt. I'm like, I gotta tell people. People need to know how good they can feel. And so that was like the beginning of like where I knew like I have got to share what has brought so much light and joy and peace to my heart and soul. And so I started sharing on Facebook. I started sharing in church. I started sharing with my friends. And every single time, it's hard. It is so hard. There's always like these negative voices that come at you that try and shut me up and shut me down. And I really feel like, yes, some of those voices are like negative stories from your past, other people that have really, put you down. But I also believe there's light and there's darkness. There's good and there's evil, and the devil is trying to shut you up and keep you from connecting anybody together. He wants to isolate everyone and keep everyone quiet and ultimately end your life. That is his ultimate goal. And so every time I open my mouth, every time I tell my story, I'm in charge. That is a success. Every time that I say something, every time that I speak up, when something's not right, just me getting in the way, standing in the way between good and evil and saying, this is what I stand for. That's my greatest succse.
Yeah, that is hard. I mean, it's an interesting thing. There's always room for more. I talked about this last week on my podcast, but when we open ourselves up to vulnerability, we essentially are allowing our beliefs and everything we are open to scrutiny. Now, it doesn't mean people are going to scrutinize us. I think a lot of people, they're going to connect with us. I would say in my own personal experience, when I've been the most vulnerable, I'd say a good, if not 95% of the people, they actually connect. And they feel like, wow, you just were real with me. And that's something that you can't fake. That's not something that can be put on a show. And so there's it's just like all these paradoxes. I had a religious teacher teaching me once about how there's the opposites have to be joined together in truth. So like there's always these truth is found when you are grappling with two opposites and making them work. And so it's one of those things where it's like vulnerable is the last thing you would think you'd want to do to connect. Like you don't want to just like lay yourself out and just like completely be vulnerable, but that's what ultimately is what is actually going to connect and what's actually going to maintain that. And then being able to continue to do it and continue to desensitize yourself to the fear of it.
Yeah.
Because I agree there's these negative energies out there and there's these negative forces, definitely a lot of negative voices inside our own minds. And those may have come from other people. They may have come from other circumstances. So there's an experience for me that I went through finally deciding to start a podcast, finally deciding to do these things. I thought back, why am I so hesitant to act? Right? Why am I so hesitant to share? Why am I so hesitant to do things? And it kind of stems from some experience in my childhood, learning the ABCs, right? And it was in my house, it was not, in the beginning, it was not a great situation. And while we were all homeschooled, I was maybe a little bit slower at learning. And so we had these ABC cards and we would do them. And anytime we didn't, I shouldn't say we, anytime I didn't get through them properly, then I would get spanked.
Oh.
And if you got spanked, if you cried too soon, then you got spanked more. If you cried too late, then you got spanked more. So you had to manage that. When did you start screaming type thing? But because of that, not just that experience, but that experience, then there's been multiple experiences where I've tried to just go do something because I like to act, but then I get shut down, right? I've been shut down. I've been made fun of, whatever the case is. So then it's like, it creates all these voices, all these experiences that I've attached meaning to that didn't mean that at all, that I've attached meaning to. And then it's created this fear of doing something. And I don't know if it was when we were talking earlier, but you had mentioned the way that you kind of process all those negative voices. I want you to share this because this is important. Learning, we all have negative voices. Anybody who says they just don't hear negative voices, I just don't believe them. I could be way off base, but I just don't know anybody who doesn't have any negative voices. What I do know is a lot of people who have learned to process the negative voices, who have learned to really not let them, I wouldn't even say not let them affect them, because most of them have learned to let them affect them in a positive way. So it's not, it's not that they're just oh, I just don't let it affect me. It rolls off my back. It's, they take that and they say, hey, look, oh yeah, well, look, I'm going to go do this. And they're saying, oh, there's this opposition. I know I'm in the right direction. I know I'm going where I'm supposed to go. Right. And they use that as a barometer almost. So it's not like they don't use them. It's learning how to emotionally master these feelings, emotionally master these situations in our lives, because we all have them. Nobody's going to get away from them, especially in the world we live in where everybody has an opinion about everything. We're all going to have these things that are just coming at us. So how do we deal with those voices? How do we get clear about who we are? Again, it goes back to identifying our identity so we can actually be true with our emotions. And so how do you process the negative voices, and how do you embrace the positive voices?
Awesome question. I love this. And I feel like when people think that they don't have those negative voices, it's like they're just so accustomed to it. You can't hear those. You only hear the way that you feel. Maybe you feel heavy or weighed down or overwhelmed or anxious or angry or whatever. But really reverse engineering that into your thoughts, because that's where those emotions come from, is the voices that go on inside of your head. And identifying those first comes from really paying attention to how you feel. And so as I've worked with clients and what I've done with myself, this is my favorite way to get to reverse engineer what's going on inside of my own head is to write myself 2 letters. One is from the devil, and the other one is from God. So first, when I'm feeling, especially when I'm feeling yucky, and it's something that has to be done pretty regularly, like taking out the garbage or brushing your teeth. Like you just have to, it builds up. Like every experience that you have has emotion attached to it. You just have to continually work on yourself. So one of my favorite ways of getting this out of me and really seeing what's going on inside of my own head is writing myself a letter. And I just have this journal, this black journal, and I write down, dear Stephanie. And as if the devil is speaking to me, I like write every mean thing that is going on inside of my head, but I don't think about it. I just let the pen do the talking and really let myself feel it. And like sometimes there's just hot tears coming down my face because I'm like, wow, look at all this mean crap that's going on inside of my head. And literally it's this yuck that comes up and out of me and down my arm and onto the pen and into this paper. And it's literally a weight that comes out. It's like, oh, now I know why I feel the way I feel, instead of I feel this way and I don't know why. And then this is really important. Sometimes I do keep these letters as like evidence to myself that this is real. I really do need to pay attention to this, and I'll keep that black journal somewhere where nobody's going to read that. And most of the time, I shred that crap up and I throw it in the trash where it belongs. It does not belong inside of me. These thoughts, these emotions, these negative feelings don't belong inside of you. Get it out of you. It needs to be gone. But then there's this hole that's left. You can't leave. You can't like pull a weed and like not put something back, or weeds are just going to grow back, right?
Yep, it's a vacuum.
Exactly. So then that's why I write myself a letter from God, because this guy loves me. He wants me to be happy. He wants me to feel joy and peace and security. He wants me to live my full potential. He wants you to live your greatness. And so then I write myself another letter, dear Stephanie, and I just let the pen talk as if God is speaking to me. And I let myself fill back up. And this is where I want my focus to be. This is what I go back and read often, so that I am nourishing what I want to flourish. Because where you put your attention, that's exactly what's going to grow. So that's what you want to focus on the most. Yes, you've got to pull those weeds. You've got to get those nasty thoughts out of your mind and get rid of them, get them up, out, and away. But then you've got to replace what you want to grow. Tell yourself what you want to have happen, what you want to think, what you want to feel, and really focus on that. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just like the idea of, I've done something similar, not as detailed though, and not as I would say not as regular or structured. I don't know if that's even the right word, because it's pretty structured. I like draw a line down the paper and like would write all the reasons why you can't do something, all the reasons why I think I'm feeling that I can't achieve whatever, and then just line by line write the exact opposite about what could happen, like what if, and like the what I believe, and then the what if. And sometimes you can write okay, what if I keep believing this? What if I keep living these voices? Then what happens, right? What's the worst case scenario? Let's really go down. Like, where does this end if I completely succumb to this? Mm-hmm. And I can't not succumb to it. So I had I served an LDS mission in Scotland and Ireland, and my mission president, he's funny, a very direct type guy, but he would often say, when trying to encourage us to keep our minds focused on what the job at hand, he would say, a man with a foot on both sides of the fence has a very sore crotch. It's like, it's so true though. Like you can get so worked up and stressed about like trying to manage, well, I want to be in the world, but I don't want to be in the world. I want to watch these type of movies because everybody's talking about it, but I don't want to watch these movies. I want to be listening to this music, but I don't want to listen to this music. I want to have these friends, but I hate how they make me feel, right? Like, but they're my family. Well, their family sucks sometimes. Like, yeah, love them from a distance. It's okay. Yeah. Maybe only spend 20 minutes with them rather than like a whole day with them. But protect yourself. It's just so important to protect. And again, it goes back to that first thing you said, or I guess I said it, but you said it. Be selfish, right? The only way to be selfless, to actually help people, is to be selfish and take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. and be on the higher ground, not from a prideful perspective of like, I'm better than you, but from a perspective of, look, I've taking care of myself. I'm confident. I'm healthy. I've created boundaries in my life to where I can maintain my emotional state. I know how to deal with my emotional state, and anything that's trying to destroy that, I'm not going to be a part of. And you can be upfront about that. Once you have an identity, then you're able to actually share that identity, and people will respect you for that identity, even if they don't like you. Last week on the podcast, I spoke a lot. This just ties in a lot with the same topics, but honesty and integrity. And my dad taught me it was better to be trusted than to be loved, right? You don't necessarily have to have people like you all the time, but there's value in knowing that when somebody comes and asks you for information, they value the fact that they're going to get your opinion of the truth. It's not necessarily always the truth, but they're going to get your honest opinion. Yeah. And there's value in holding that standard. And I've had multiple jobs that where I've declared my standards vocally, and this is what I want to do. And then the coworkers who I know amongst themselves are not living that same standard, but they're always protecting me and making sure that my standard is able to be kept. And that's an important thing, to be able to declare your standards. But you can't do that if you don't know who you are.
Exactly.
And it's really difficult. So this identifying of, okay, this is all of the negative things. This is all of what people want me to believe. This is all what the darkness, the negative energies, or Satan wants me to believe. But who am I really, right? If we took off all of the limiting crap that we believe about ourselves, that we've been taught, that we've been not somebody's like, you suck, right? Nobody's like directly teaching you that, but they're teaching you that through their actions. They're teaching you that by their limiting beliefs, and you're adopting those through osmosis, right? Just by being around them, your association, you're adopting those limiting beliefs. And so we have to take back all that crap. What would life be like? Who could I become if none of these things were true? And I think that's what's so powerful about letting God speak to you and actually write it out. Because writing it out, that's just a psychological thing. But if you actually write it down, you believe it more. You remember it more. It becomes part of you a lot more when you're actually writing it, rather than just like, well, I'm thinking positively.
It anchors it inside of your body.
Yeah, thinking positively is sometimes effective, but most of the time you need other strategies to actually stay more positive. So with that, who would you say like your biggest naysayers are? There's yourself, obviously. There's a lot of those voices. Is there anybody outside of yourself that you feel is like, or was, maybe not anymore because you've moved past it, but was at some point a naysayer trying to hold you back from stepping out on a limb and reaching your full potential?
You know, I feel like my biggest naysayer is me. Yes, there's been people that have, said some mean things here and there. Most of the bullying I experienced was me being the bully to other people. So I would say that is definitely something that I still struggle with myself, is telling myself that I can do it, that I'm capable, that I can make a difference for somebody, that if I just speak up, then somebody can change their life because they need to hear someone. They need a messenger. I am the only person in my way, basically. And the way that I shut her up is, really giving her a name. Sometimes I call her Sally sometimes. Like as I talk with clients and other people, like there's like that one voice. I'm like, it's just you. Name that person. Sally, shut up. And exactly. Just push her out of your mind. And like for you, it will be a man, of course.
No, it's still Sally.
It's still Sally.
I'm just teasing everybody.
Yes, but really, it's me. It's me in my own way.
So I don't know the answer to this, but were you a bully to other people or mostly just to yourself?
Both. There's been times when I humiliated other people, and not proud moments. I corrected all that I could and really made peace and closure, and it's a long, hard process. There's some awkward phone calls that I made like after 15, 13, I don't remember how many years, some phone calls. I said, hey, you remember that one time? I'm really sorry about that. And it wasn't for them. Like I whether they were angry at me or totally accepting, it was for me to clear that out of me And that made a huge difference in the way that I feel.
Yeah, that's huge. So I'm curious how intertwined, I'm not exactly sure how to word this, but I guess from my own experience, I was raised in maybe a little bit, well, it wasn't a little bit, it was an abusive household when I was younger. And my way of survival was to help. I became the abuser in a lot of cases to my siblings, and I just didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
Right. I talked about my grandfather earlier. He had given me this identity of that you could be a leader. And I was like, okay. So I just always thought I was a great leader. What I didn't know was how all the people who I was leading felt about me. They didn't know that they didn't like me. I didn't know that they felt like they couldn't be themselves around me, or that they were walking on eggshells because they didn't know how I was going to respond. In my world, I was helping people be effective, productive, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until I realized, and my brother explained to me, oh, actually, like, you're not showing up the way you think you're showing up. And that was an interesting challenge to confront. Wow, I actually have been damaging relationships. I've actually been ultimately damaging lives and tearing dreams apart from the people around me. But how much of that do you think is because you are not whole yourself, or just because you didn't know how you were showing up?
Maybe restate the question.
Okay. I know this is complicated. I'm trying to get this.
I'll catch up with you. I am blonde, but I will catch up with you.
It's just like I'm trying to form the question in my mind.
Okay.
So I guess for me, I feel like there's two. I know I've been nasty to some people intentionally, and that I'm sorry about. A lot of times, though, growing up, as far as like the physical abuse and things, I didn't feel like I was being abusive to other people. I didn't feel like I was intentionally hurting people. I felt like I was helping people be saved from my mom beating them or somebody else beating them, right? So, that meant I had to be in control of the situation, so to prevent greater abuse. So I in myself had convinced myself, to however this works, right, that I was a good person in the abusing situation. Then there's the other side where it's like, I know I just don't like myself, and I don't believe in myself. And so because you believe in yourself right now, I'm intentionally trying to tear you down. So how much of your childhood was you thought you were doing good, but you were actually hurting people, or you were intentionally trying to tear people down to make yourself feel better?
I think I always knew when I was doing wrong. I always knew when I was bullying my siblings. I always knew when, I verbally humiliated someone at school, or, these different situations. I just locked that away. And, that was bad. No, but I don't feel that bad about it. So I just move on. So that was, it was not something that I was unaware of. I just didn't care. And it wasn't until I really started caring about me and my improvement and my life on a really long spectrum, that's when I really started paying attention. But it was more paying attention to the way that I feel. So first I had to take care of like my own self, my own crap that I'd done for, taking care of like the emotional weight connected to like pornography and that mindset, and getting rid of that. Well, after I got rid of that, it's like you feel lighter, but then you can feel these other like tethers that are like holding you down, so to speak, spiritually. And developing an ability to really listen with my heart, and making a list of different persons and situations that were still heavy on my soul, and going through that entire list. It was like 112 or 116. It was like people and situations, and some people got a phone call. Some people I just needed to like go rant and rave about this situation by myself, and like just not around anyone else. It wouldn't be appropriate to go try and contact some people. And some people I just needed to like rekindle a relationship with and reconnect with them. But I went down through this list, and it was just me paying attention to the way that I feel and asking myself, what can you do about it? Giving myself that permission, that positioning myself to be accountable and be like, okay, how can we take care of this? Let's get it done. And one by one, getting it taken care of, and little by little, just feeling lighter and lighter and lighter, and being able to do more because I feel so good.
That's awesome. So is there anybody left on that list or any situations, or is it all taken?
I finished that entire list, but there's maintenance. It's not like you're done forever. It's like there's always things that need to be taken care of. And I'm one of those people that like, I'm either silent or explosive. So like when somebody is doing something that I'm not okay with and I stay quiet about that, it becomes heavy on me. So I've made it a new way of life to like, when something's not right, speak up. Because you're going to have to take care of that one way or another. You're going to have to make that phone call later if you don't want to have that weight weighing on you. Most people don't have the guts to do that.
Yeah, it's hugely courageous to be able to just share, like share those feelings, especially in the moment. And my issue that I've had in the past is learning to do it tactfully.
Yes.
And learning that maybe in the moment, not the time to share it, but it just still needs to be shared. Yeah, there's a lot of like that I've struggled with just in my life in general. Because I tend to say exactly what I'm thinking and feeling rather than like, hey, let's think about this and let's see if that even needs to be said. I think it's important to at least not internalize and hold it with you. But what I've learned to do is really consider their point of view before I say anything. Because often I would just like, well, this is what I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, that's your opinion, but like, what about all these other opinions that we have to think about? And like, oh, I didn't think about those. You're probably right. And then, but it could have been resolved if I would have just initially thought about how somebody else might feel.
Yeah.
And take the initiative rather than having to be corrected. Like I tried to correct somebody else, then they have to correct me back. Just being willing to actually feel what other people have the empathy, and then the empathy for me dictates a lot of how I might discuss a subject or bring something up that's weighing on me. Thinking, okay, well, this is how it might come across. I've thought of every reason why I shouldn't say this, and I still feel like I need to say it. So do what you will with it, but this is how I feel. And I just want you to know this is how I feel. And that's way better than like, hey, I'm accusing you of this because I'm feeling this way.
Let me clarify. I'm not like getting in people's face and be like, you're doing something wrong. Y'all need to listen to me. It's like more like, hey, I think maybe I miscommunicated. Can you help me understand what this means? And being just opening clear communication when there's a disagreement. It's not like me just expressing myself so that I can feel good. It's like, no, let's come to a resolve and a closure here, and let me take ownership of everything that I'm doing. How can I help you? That's the space that this comes from that makes it work. It's nothing like you're wrong and I'm right. That doesn't work. No. That makes it worse, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows, like, it's okay that's part of being vulnerable, is being willing to take ownership, being willing to be wrong, being willing to be like, hey, look, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what we're doing here, but all I know is this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. So like, maybe I'm way off base. Could you like shed some light on this situation? I think that's just so important in my relationship with my wife. I see it regularly where at the very beginning, it's so funny. Communication is such an interesting thing because a lot of us talk and few communicate, right? And so when we first got married, my wife and I, she was raised cooking and cleaning dishes a certain way, right? She would rinse her dishes with cold water, and for me that just didn't, or wash her dishes with cold water. I'm not sure which one it was, honestly, but it's just different than what I do. I'm like, why? Like, that's different, that's interesting that you do it that way. That's different. Well, from her life, that was something, those words meant really a negative connotation. It was not like okay to be interesting or different. It was like, if I disapproved of something, I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? That was her childhood. Where for me saying that's interesting is like, I'm learning something new. That's a really interesting way of doing that. Could you please explain yourself? Because I'm open to learning. Why are you doing it that way? And so that caused a lot of heartache in the beginning, like 2 or 3 months of our relationship, being married, because she always thought I was accusing her of being bad and wrong. Yeah. And really, I'm like, not, and just trying to learn and find out what she was doing and why she was doing it that way. So we can be using the same words, but if we aren't clear about the intention behind the words and what our objective is, then those words might mean something different to somebody else and then create more conflict than resolution.
Exactly.
And so I think that's an important, it's an important thing to be aware of when you're communicating, when you're having conversations with people. Make sure you are actually communicating and have enough questions or checks and balances in the conversation, and enough understanding and willingness to be wrong that you actually did communicate effectively. That's huge. Recognizing, hey, I know I'm not the best communicator. I can talk all day long, right? But I'm not always the best communicator, because that requires me to know exactly who you are, and that's pretty difficult. Some people are really good at it, but for me, it's a struggle. And so I try and leave the door open for, hey, I could be completely wrong. This is how I'm feeling. Please correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm off base. Please help me there.
Golden.
So you've taken all of your experiences now and you've turned them into coaching. How long have you been coaching specifically, like these mindsets and helping people overcome their limiting beliefs and their negative voices and their negative emotions?
1 year this month. I've done an extensive amount of training and learning the skills and processes and tools and using them on myself and teaching what has been most effective. I've been doing this for about a year. No, a year. This month. 1 year.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's been a really wild ride. I never knew that this world existed. I never knew anything about, well, not anything. I mean, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I know that there's self-development stuff out there, but mentors, life coaches, what's that? So it's been a really great thing to dive into. It's like, me being somebody's friend, but there's an arrangement where I get to really help somebody dial in and uncover what's holding them back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting. I likewise, again, one of those things I was holding myself back from, being willing to share and feeling like I had something of value, right? You can go through a lot of trainings and things, but what I came to realize was everybody has personal experiences, and everybody can learn something from those personal experiences. Nobody's ever going to experience what Stephanie experienced, right? Nobody's ever going to experience what Samuel experienced. There's 11 of us children in my family, and we all experienced the same situations very differently. Mm-hmm. And so, and we all got something different out of them. So I guess for the people who are listening to this and want to build a meaningful legacy, it doesn't matter what it is, but I'm confident that you've had experiences in your life that you could share and add value to somebody else's life if you're willing to open yourself up, be vulnerable, and share those experiences. And you have value in every conversation. There is something of value that you can add in every conversation. And understanding that allows your emotional mastery, because I think I can just speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody else, but there's always a level of anxiety or fear or something, fear of rejection, that when we go to share something personal to ourselves, and if we don't learn how to master those emotions and use those emotions for our benefit, then we will be a slave to our emotions. And it's really up to us. Are we going to be a slave to our circumstances and our emotions, or are we going to be a master of them and use them as tools? I think that everything that I've felt, been given, experience in life is a gift from God, and it's there to help me become a more and better person. And as a result of that, it's not for me, it's for me to become a better person to bless other people's lives. Exactly. And so everybody has those experiences. Please share them. Almost everybody has a video camera on their phone now, and you can go do Facebook Lives with Stephanie.
Do it. Yeah.
It's super intimidating first time. I used to be really embarrassed about what I look like. And I don't care anymore.
That's so awesome.
I just do it. And nobody makes fun of me. If you want to make fun of me, I think Facebook has a way to comment on things, and my podcast, you can make fun of me if you want. Or you can leave really, really nice reviews. It's really up to you. I'm not going to hold you to either one, but I think it's just important to have interaction and have conversation. So what what 2 books, if you were to recommend 2 books for our audience to get, read, devour, right? Really have them become part of themselves. What 2 books would you say have impacted your life the most or helped you become who you are?
I've considered this because I've enjoyed a few really great books, and I'm very passionate about parenting and really showing up 100% for my children, because that's like my primary calling, is to raise the future. And so the 2 are children's books. I wonder if one of them could be considered a children's book. So one is called The Giant Carrot by Jan Peck. And I love all of the life lessons that can be pulled from this story. It's so fun about a family of hillbillies, how they all come together to make this carrot grow. They plant a seed and they help it to grow in different ways. And they all have plans of what's going to happen with this carrot and what it takes to actually have this carrot be something that's fruitful for their family. And as I've read that to my children, and I've read that in classes that I've taught and asked the people, what did you hear? What lessons? There's something different that every person learns. It's like, oh, well, you need to have joy in the journey. You need to sing and dance around that carrot like the little girl did. Or like, it's teamwork. You can't do everything by yourself. The whole family had to work together to get this carrot up out of the ground. So I think it's a great way to not only connect you with your children and connect you with your family, but to have fun learning life lessons. So that would be my first recommendation. The other is Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And I love how you don't even have to read that book from cover to cover to like really get some benefit out of it. Each chapter has different stories in it, and some of them are really suspenseful, and like you learn courage, or you learn hard work, or you feel sad, or like you learn what a family can be. And that, I think, is the most important thing that we can do, aside from really getting in alignment with ourselves and getting emotional mastery really under control. The other thing that really changes the world is building a foundation of a strong family. The best way to destroy an entire world, like why are countries fighting? Why can't anybody get along? Well, make sure those countries are completely destroyed. So how do we destroy a country? Well, make sure that each region is in disagreement and each community is fighting over this and that, and parties are divided. Well, how do we do that? Let's make sure that we get into the homes and shred those families apart. Make sure nobody gets along. Everybody's fighting. There's abuse. There's violence. There's cruelty. Let's make sure this is how you destroy an entire world. So how do you build it? You do the exact opposite. Build yourself, build your family, and allow that to spread. Share your light and spread that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. Family is something like our family, my 11 siblings, we were not, we were raised very independent. And it's like one of my greatest gifts that I was given as a child and as in our family, I think, is the ability to be independent and the ability to stand without necessarily needing other people. Like very emotionally independent, or we were raised to think we were, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think has given me a lot of success in certain areas of my life. But when I was looking for a spouse to get married to, that was one of the things I was like, I want to marry somebody who's close to their family. Like that their family's important to them, because I never had to really experience that. And it's been interesting because there's times where I think, man, we spend way too much time with family. Like we need to go do something else. But I'm grateful that that's happened, because being and seeing the way her family operates has helped me actually become closer with my family, which is really exciting. Like I actually get to know my siblings.
Wow.
Where before I probably would have said, yeah, we're related. This is fantastic. And that was pretty much the extent of a lot of our relationships. Mm-hmm. And there may still be a few relationships like that in my family, but I've tried really hard to build and foster relationships with each member of my family. And it is becoming more important. So it's a good lesson to learn. The family is the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
And it's fun. So where first before we ask the last question, where do people find you if they wanted to get coaching from you, they wanted to get advice from you, they just wanted to sit and chat with you? give you a phone call, whatever, where do they find you on social media? Like, where do you hang out the most? Where can they get a hold of you?
Facebook is my playground. So come join me on Facebook, send me a message, and we can have a conversation. I have a questionnaire that you can fill out if you want to really take this to the next level and really learn some tools to help you get your emotions under control so they're not controlling you. I can help you. I can help you reinvent this future that you're looking for. So Facebook, come join me there.
Okay, and where? Just
Stephanie Aranda. Yes.
Okay.
Search my name, Stephanie Aranda, Aranda.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you spelled that out because I couldn't have spelled it out for you. It will be in the show notes, everybody, along with the 2 books that she's recommended. I think you're awesome. I love the energy.
Thanks.
I did not recognize how I'm glad everybody's listening to us on podcast, but how dumb I look on video sometimes. And so I started doing these Facebook videos. My facial, I need to be more excited. Like inside, I'm super excited a lot of the time, but I don't let it show all the time. And I love that about you. Like, you are explosive, just like you said. You get excited, and everybody knows it. If everybody chose to watch this completely with no sound, they would know that what you're saying is important and that you're excited about it. And
I'm so glad.
No,
Yes.
that is a huge thing. And they're gonna be like, "What did I miss out on? How do I get the sound working on this thing?" Because of the presence that you bring into a room, and that's valuable. That's something that I work on, but it doesn't come naturally to me to be very expressive, and so it's something I work on. And my wife coaches me on it as well because she thinks that, Sam, you need to be more expressive.
I like you, Sam.
Well, I like myself too. It's just, am I really showing everybody how awesome I am, or not? Right? That's the question. I think most people like me once they get to know me. It's the getting to know me part that is sometimes difficult for people. But so the final question is, what do you want your legacy to be? If we're now your grandma or your great grandma, maybe you're passed away already. What do you want your great grandchildren to be saying? If you could say it in like 2 or 3 sentences, what do you want them to be like? Hey, my grandma Stephanie was this. This is who she was. This is what she stood for.
When I'm an old lady, I want my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren to think of me as that woman that just let it all show, all the light, the greatness in the pain and in the joy, and the woman that spoke up and talked about what was hard even when nobody else wanted to, and stood for something and stuck with it and helped other people really think twice about what they're doing and the decisions that they're making and how that affects everyone around them.
That's awesome. That's such a good legacy. And
thank you. If
there's anything I can do to help you achieve that, I'd love to. I'm grateful that you were a guest on our show. Please.
What an honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's awesome. I started doing this about a month ago, and the people I've met so far are just incredible people. And like, if I just do this for the rest of my life and just talk to people on screen, then it's great. Hopefully there's some people who get value out of it, but I'm getting value out of it. I've got some notes, things that I wrote down that I think everybody should hear, phrases that I think everybody should hear. One of them, if you wanted to nourish, nourish what you want to flourish is what she said. And that is just so true. Too many of us, we keep giving attention to things that we don't want. And then we're wondering why we keep getting what we don't want. It's just like, just think about it. It's not too difficult. If you don't water crap, it doesn't grow. If you do water stuff, you can get pretty flowers. So anyways, I'm just grateful for you. I'm grateful that you were able to be here. If you do like and resonate with what you heard, please connect with her on Facebook. She could always use more followers, I'm sure. And
I'm just here to serve. Like, you think I can help you? Let me help you.
I know. Be humble now. No. No, but really, she's awesome, and everybody should view her content. She does a lot on Facebook, as she said. So go follow her there, and then her actual full name will be in the show notes along with the books. And like, comment, share, whatever you feel inclined to do. Unless it's negative, just send me a direct message then.
I know how to use the block button, or just
you can send her negative messages too. No, but definitely 5-star reviews are always welcome on this podcast. So Anyways, have a great day, and thanks for joining us on Fueling Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.